Okay. Very good morning, everyone. My name is Tak Swan. Welcome to LLI, and thank you for your overwhelming response and interest in today's seminar, the Learning Series Seminar, The Next Wave, Workplace Learning and Technology. The LLI Learning Series is the brainchild of LLI in wanting to promote learning by our partners of the campus. I'm glad that the team is able to organize this inaugural seminar series as part of our efforts to engage our training partners, business enterprises, technologists, and individual practitioners. As the name of the seminar depicts, workplace learning is the next big thing. Learning at workplace is not new. Both enterprises and individuals at work are doing it already every day at their workplaces. Perhaps what are lacking are the consciousness and the deliberateness of harnessing the potential of workplace learning. Now, the aim of this seminar today is to have a renewed focus on workplace learning. Traditional training and development solutions such as classroom learning emphasizes the storing of knowledge as well as a one-size-fits-all approach. Now, training provisions are now under pressure and to increase flexibility, reduce costs, and deliver more responsive development solutions that meets the needs of staff or workers wherever they are. There is a demand for access to knowledge and performance support on a just-in-time basis. Many organizations have recognized the value of workplace learning and actively approach adopting the 70-20-10 framework as a strategic approach to improving organizational performance. It is well understood that the majority of what and how people learn in the workplace occurs through challenging experiences and by working and interacting with others. This comes mainly from the 70% or at least the highest percentage of learning from our experiences at the workplace. And the next 20 or so of learning from observing, from being coached and mentored by others. While the last 10% or so of our learning comes from formal learning or courses and programs. The challenges besides the cultural readiness issues are identifying specific solutions or knowing how or where to even get started, or to support experiential and social learning. Technology can also play a part or a key enabling role by supporting flexible delivery and or access, or even through collaborative platforms that will facilitate people to connect, to share, or even to support each other. So without further ado, let me introduce our invited guests and learned colleagues. First, we have Gary, Senior Partners in Learning Directors, Public Sector Group, Microsoft Singapore. He has gracefully agreed to support our event. He will share the landscape changes and how technology has opened up new avenues for educational modalities from the classroom. The trend towards online learning and just-in-time learning seems to make sense and appropriate in the knowledge economy. After Gary, Hui Hui, Assistant Director, Education Sector and Industry Partners from Informal Development Authorities of Singapore, she will share how organizations and technology partners work together to bring about more effective workplace-based learning with technology by providing just-in-time, contextualized and bite-sized information to their employees. I will leave it to her to introduce her co-speaker later. Our third speaker, Poi San. She's Assistant Director from the Learning and Professional Development Division of Institute for Adult Learning. She will share her work at enhancing workplace as well as work-based learning practices to improve organizational productivity and employee performance. Specifically, she will introduce the Learning at Work website developed by IAL to support enterprises in adopting workplace learning more effectively. Our last speaker, Ranan, is one of the pioneers of the multimedia-based e-learning and has been providing application and solution development for e-learning and blended learning to some of our local partners as well as overseas and MC since 2000. Now, his passion is to give a great learning experience to today's on-the-go learners through one of his latest developments. Without further ado, let us put our hands together to welcome our first speaker, Gary. Thank you.
Very good morning to everyone here. It's been quite a while since I spoke to a group of this size. So I lead the education sector here at Microsoft Singapore, and more recently, hang on, let me switch to the slide. More recently, I've been, in the month of June, I was also given a kind of an expanded role to look at the national capability and development for Singapore from the Microsoft perspective. So you can see 2 titles there, but I'm just drawing 1 salary at the moment. Still in negotiations. Our financial year starts 1st July, so I'm seeing what I can do with that. So anyway, I look after the education sector, right from K to 12, your primary schools, secondary schools, IHLs, and I'll be sharing some examples about how our public and private partnerships have formed. In fact, we have developed a lot of partnerships together with institutions to drive Smart Nation initiatives, to drive data science, which is really the new electricity, if you want to call it, that drives competitiveness for businesses and also individuals like us today. But before I start, let me just give you a context of where we are today in terms of the landscape. These are some numbers which I picked up from an independent source. So the world economy is really changing, and it's affecting education and forcing many schools and colleges to do more with less. And I think all of us are familiar with that term, doing more with less. And that's also why I mentioned that, with the expanded role, I'm doing more, but with probably the same amount of resources or slightly less or so. Right. The powerhouses are also shifting. Right. The countries that we see in the past that had really strong buying power or purchasing power are also changing. There is also widespread youth unemployment, and governments are actually increasingly looking at educational systems to be the savior, to enable and to enhance employability issues. With people changing and migrating to cities at a rapid rate, about 69% of the people will live in cities in 2050. Twice that number will be more than 60 years old as compared to today. So the change is actually happening so rapidly, and as we know, change is always a constant. We cannot expect to live the same way today as we will do in the next 5 years. It is occurring at exponentially breakneck speed, and therefore it is also vital to equip future leaders, basically our children and the future generations, to manage this change through products, services, and also workforce who creates and supports the needs of this changing world. So we also work and live in a global environment, which means that our surroundings also become more complex. I was actually looking at to purchase something off one of the local stores here in Singapore, And it was all over the website, internet. So I go to the online store that's available and all that. But when I go to a physical store, they tell me, oh, sorry, I don't carry this brand. Right? So the world is becoming more complex because at the push of a button, I shouldn't be saying this, but when we Google, we get your, or when we Bing, and I hope that most of you Bing, we get tons of information that becomes available to us, right? But at the same time, some of this information, the accuracy of the information, sometimes you have to take it with a pinch of salt, right? So I had to order online before it actually reached my place yesterday. So all these things are things that we need to be aware of. We need to build new skills in order to be able to formulate and be competitive in this ever-changing landscape that we are in today. The workforce also changing demographically. The world is getting younger, but at the same time it's also getting older. Right? In lesser developed countries, we have more young people relative to the elderly. Gen Ys actually make up more than 50% of India's population. And today, the young people are actually preparing for careers that may not exist yet. And 2/3 of the jobs available in 2020 do not even exist today. But at the same time, the world is also getting older. More developed countries, like Singapore, have fewer young people compared to the elderly. You can blame people like me for not getting married, not having kids, right? So Asia itself accounts for 1/2 of the world's older population. So you just imagine, right? Finally, I think the industry needs are also becoming more diverse. And at Microsoft, we evolve our business needs as a mobile-first and cloud-first company to serve our diverse customer base with heightened expectations, as well as also the direct relationship to skills that are required to meet these expectations. I'm not sure how many of you have been to the Microsoft office at 1 Marina Boulevard. Yeah. So if you notice at level 22, so we occupy about 6 levels of that building. Level 21, level 22, we have a reception. So when we launch Windows 10, and I'm saying this in a closed room. Oh, the door is open, okay. But when we launch Windows 10, so Windows 10, as you know, it's available for free download. You can upgrade and all that. And I'm giving you this example to tell you that the expectations of consumers are increasingly becoming more diverse, increasingly becoming more complex, and also demanding as well. So when they clicked on the Windows 10 update and it didn't go as expected, and the Microsoft Office that we have there is actually not really a service center. It's actually a reception. It's a concierge, right? But we saw people coming over to the reception and say, hey, I clicked this button, but it's not working. So, well, of course, I would like to assure you, if you have not upgraded to Windows 10, please do it. It's working like a charm. I'm running Windows 10 over here. Okay, but the purpose of the example is to share with you how the expectations of individuals, companies, industries, and different segments of the landscape is really changing, and so is education. So in the large part of my presentation today, I will talk to you about, and I'll share with you some of the education imperatives that we at Microsoft see that are changing the way teachers teach and the way students learn. I forgot to also mention that I used to teach for 14 years before joining Microsoft. So I stand here today as both someone who has been in the education industry for 14 years and in Microsoft for less than 1 year. So if we look at the digital inclusion, and one of the reasons why we have so many seminars, why we have IDA also championing things like the Silver Infocom Festival and all that is to ensure that there is digital inclusion and making sure that everyone proceeds on and no one is left behind. So with digital inclusion, you will also have a greater high school and graduate rates, and of course, higher education enrollment as well. So in my 14 years I was teaching at Nanyang Polytechnic, I saw the trends of education peaking at a certain levels and also dropping at certain levels. And when I was personally also a student of the Polytechnic, and at the time that I was studying there, 1993 to 1996, IT was like just starting out. It was the very first, one of the first courses that the Polytechnic actually rolled out. Actually the second course. First course was business. But the thing is that if you look at the rate of change, IT at that point in time, you had your .com, and then after that it dropped off the radar. It became not as sexy. But now with all the different initiatives that we have actually put in together with the government agencies and all that, it is becoming more and more, you'll see more uptake in terms of students wanting to actually attend and get degrees and diplomas in information technology as well. So we want to continue to do that. Of course, if we have more graduates, there will be conversely also increased earnings and also reduced unemployment. There will also be greater tax contributions. Now, when I put it in this box there, I said greater tax contributions. I know it's probably not going to go down well with audience lah, because wow, I work so hard, but yet the tax rate, every year I have to pay income tax and all that. But if you look at the tax that us Singaporeans pay as compared to what the US citizen pays, actually it's very much lower. I don't know whether you all agree with me, but if you look at the percentage, it's actually very much lower. And by increasing the employability, increasing the pay and the salaries of individuals, we will also have an increased usage of government, e-government and e-health services. And by doing so, we will actually bring down the costs, because we do not need, a lot of people can actually do self-service kind of activities already. There will of course also be reduction in crime, not so much apparent in Singapore, but also a decrease of reliance of publicly available funds. So the advances of technology, 4 areas I'm going to touch on. One is really the evolution of the user interface. And allow me to share with you a video about how actually learning can take place using technology in a very different way. And this is a real case study that Microsoft has done with Case Western University in the US for their medical faculty to actually learn about medical science. So let me roll this video.
We've been teaching human anatomy the same way for 100 years. Students get a cadaver, then they look at medical illustrations, and it's completely two-dimensional, and the human body isn't.
Microsoft Hololens is a holographic computer that you wear. It enables you to bring your digital world into your real world.
At Case Western Reserve University, we are focused on solving problems and creating new knowledge.
My job is to teach, and I really think this could impact almost everything that we teach people. With HoloLens, you can see the muscles on top of the skeleton all at the same time. You can bring them in and out and exactly understand where things sit.
You can take any anatomical part and show any of it. You can move it around, you can make it kind of translucent so you can see through the outside, and that really helped me understand how cardiac anatomy worked. I actually had a moment where I found the aortic valve, and it was the first time that I'd actually seen the aortic valve in relation to all the other anatomical structures. It was a way of seeing it that you couldn't do with an actual heart.
I think this will improve students' confidence in learning anatomy dramatically.
By creating simulations with the HoloLens that lets them have an experience where they can fail that would be the best way to learn because we don't allow people to fail too much in real life medicine.
With HoloLens, you could imagine having a class standing around a model, almost like a tour group in a museum, where they're all interacting completely naturally. I spend a huge amount of time to make sure they become the best professionals because it's all of our jobs to make the world a better place.
Working with Case Western Reserve University to create this paradigm shift so that we can leap together with students into the future of education. We believe that HoloLens is going to enable us to do that.
We talked about being able to use it to teach art history. We have an anthropology department too that I think will enjoy this technology.
Anytime you change the way that you see things, it changes the way that you understand them. As soon as you can change somebody's understanding, then they can change the way they see the world.
So you can see the HoloLens is, we have seen a lot of different types of variations of virtual reality, augmented reality. And the HoloLens, I guess, in a way it's different because it's mixed reality. Why do I say mixed reality? Because you see what's in your physical world as well as what's in your virtual world, right? For the rest of the variations, you will only see what's in the virtual world. And the reason why Microsoft has taken a conscious decision to say that you need to be able to see what's in the physical world versus also what's in the virtual world together in the same device is because it's to enable case studies like that to take place. Right? It has to have the best of both worlds rather than to just have a vision of the virtual world itself. So for me, I was quite lucky. I had the opportunity to head down to our corporate headquarters in Redmond, and I actually tried on the device. The device not for sale yet in Singapore. Right. It's in the US and Canada, they have actually released the sets for developers to actually build scenarios like that. And we are hoping that this will also be coming into Singapore within at least this calendar year. Right. But I can't promise anything yet. Huh? And we also look at the role of the device. Today, I carry an iPhone, right? Yeah, iPhone, not Windows Phone. Because Windows Phone very hard to buy nowadays also. Got money also cannot buy. Okay, anyway, I'm carrying an iPhone, and everything, I can sync my iPhone with the moment I get into my car, I can sync, I can conduct a virtual meeting within the car through Skype for Business, for example. Yes, it's an iPhone, but I loaded it with all our Microsoft apps. And we are earning quite a lot of revenue from iOS and Android, actually. So the thing about learning is the same. There is the role of the device from a student angle, for example, between 7 to 7:30 a.m. in the morning when the student is traveling to school. That device that the student is having will be the device that he or she is able to access lecture notes, tutorials, or even just a bite-sized content that enables them to have a better understanding of the moment I reached class at 7:30 or 8 o'clock. This is the topic that my lecturer or my teacher is going to be teaching me about. And this actually allows them to have a certain context about what they're going to learn for that day. And I can tell you that it makes a lot of difference because if I have a context about what I'm going to learn on that day, and I have some prior information that I've read on the way to school, it makes a difference because the understanding, there will be a deeper understanding the moment the lecture or the lesson actually starts. Right? So the role of the device can never be kind of underestimated because the device today is probably more powerful than the PC I had when I was in the secondary Sec 3. There's also the move to the cloud. Singapore being land scarce, from end to end we take about, if I drive, it probably take about 45 minutes from Changi to Jurong. Land scarce, we cannot afford to build big data centers. If every company expects to actually build a data center, our condominiums and our HDB houses will get smaller, right? Because data centers are actually require a lot of space. So there is this shift to the cloud, and companies also recognize that by doing so, they relieve themselves of the fact that how am I going to be able to maintain all the servers, the number of hardware and software that I need to buy and install, and it's not scalable. If one day my company from 50 member team stretches to 100, do I need to buy a new server, or can I just subscribe to more licenses? Right, so the subscription model is really how companies are actually shifting, and the same for education as well. It's education as a service. With a device, I can call out curriculum, I can call out lecture notes, anytime, anywhere, ubiquitous access to all these information on the go. Lastly is, of course, universal access. For most of us, we are actually very lucky because we do not suffer from any physical disabilities. But for people or students that actually suffer from certain physical disabilities, we also have to ensure that they also have universal access to information, to curriculum, to content, to make sure that they actually stay ahead of the curve. And this may sound like marketing talk, but actually it's a fact. If you go to Microsoft Office, any of the Office applications today, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Power BI and all that, you'll be able to see that there are accessibility functions that allows you and advises you, assuming you are creating a deck of slides, to say what type of color schemes you should use if you are targeting a certain group of students with a certain physical disability. Right? So those are the accessibility features that we actually built into the software, so that there is no need for anyone to actually purchase an add-on or a plugin in order to cater to this group of slightly not so fortunate students as well. So universal access is something that we also have to take note of and make sure that everyone moves up the education curve together. 21st century learning is not something that's new to us. It's really about personalized learning and also a foundation about everything that we do. There is a combination of both blended formal and also informal learning. Formal learning is where I come to a classroom and there's a teacher-student interaction. But the informal learning is the one where I say, if I push a bite-sized content to my device between 7 to 7:30 to my students, and they have a basic context about what they're going to learn for that day, that's really about blended learning, but in an informal way. Digital content, almost all content is digital nowadays, right? There are certain times when I need to actually use pen and paper to write physical notes, and I realize my handwriting gets quite bad because nowadays we just need to press buttons. Okay, but we have to come to realize that actually content is all digital nowadays. My slides, people are taking out phones and taking photos, right? So it's digital. Everything's digital content that we are looking at. There is also this thing about employability and also readiness. There is a push, and all of us know that there is a push for skills capability development when Singapore set up the Skills Future Council, and Microsoft and all other industry partners are also represented inside that council. Is to look at skills and how to validate skills so that all of us, whether we are holding job A today and we need to switch to job B tomorrow, the skills that we have is transferable, and the skills that we have is validated through things like certifications and all that. Personalized learning is something that I share a personal. I want to share a personal story. From primary 1 to primary 6, I have never had a passing mark for my mathematics. Always F. Now you have your meet the parents session, right? Every half a year, half year you have a meet the parent session. Sorry, so I don't know the effect because I don't have kids. Okay, so anyway, but my parents were slightly more fortunate because they get called down to the school almost every 2 weeks. All right, so personalized learning is important. Why I say that? Because my communication with numbers is really bad. But at that time, we don't have the technology that enables teachers to do early intervention, right? Every teacher had their own set of data that they use, but it's very difficult for them to actually make the analysis and to understand how to personalize every content that is being delivered to the student. But today, with technology, you can do that. By knowing the weaknesses and strengths of individual students, you can actually tailor your lessons using technology to make sure that you bring out the fullest potential for every single student that's attending your class. And this goes beyond just full-time students, but even for continuous education training as well. And when it comes to skills for work and life, to me, I see it in 6 different buckets. You have problem solving and innovation. This is something that, regardless of the industry domain that you are in, it's a critical skill that you need to have. You also need to have global awareness. This goes back to my earlier example of wanting to buy something through a physical store but not able to find. So for businesses, they are also looking about ensuring how they can be more globally aware of the competition so that they can have a better impact in terms of business revenue. There is also knowledge construction, skilled communication, self-regulation and assessment, and of course, I think lastly, the collaboration aspect. Last time when we do projects, we do it as an individual, right? Now when we do projects, we make sure that we try to harness the collective knowledge and the collective wisdom of people from different sectors to make sure that the whole ecosystem of knowledge is being captured. Just yesterday, Microsoft and Nanyang Polytechnic, we signed a memorandum of understanding to set up a cluster of Smart Nation Innovation Centers within the campus. What's different about this MOU is that the fact that we have collaborated throughout the campus with the School of Health Sciences, the School of Business Management, the School of Information Technology, and also the School of Engineering. So it is really about the collective knowledge that we put together to enable co-creation of people-centric services that will help propel us for the next lap in terms of how we want to achieve the vision of being a smart nation in Singapore. I hope I'm not taking any of IDAs. Yeah. Okay, so our approach, how we see it, it's really about student-driven learning. Last time we put the teacher in the center of the class and everyone listens to the teacher. That is where the knowledge is coming from, and that's where we have the students just sitting there listening to the teacher. But now we want to put the learning in the hands of the student. Imagine if the student is able to choose the type of curriculum or the type of topics that they would like to understand better. They will be the ones that will be able to understand that topic better. Taking my example again, failing maths all the way from primary 1 to primary 6, thankfully became better when I went to Sec 3, right? But imagine if I had the opportunity to choose my own content that I was interested in, right? It would have been much better. I would definitely not have chosen math. And I would have been doing better in terms of my whole academic life. So, student-driven learning, it's important. Same thing for jobs. If we are dragging our feet to work every day, it means that we probably are not really enjoying what we do. But if I have a job that I go to willingly every day at 7 a.m., I say I want to be there at 7 a.m., that's something different, right? There is, of course, you also need to look at innovative teaching practices. And I think the public-private partnerships that we are forming today enables that to happen because we are again bringing the best of the government and also the private sector together to see how we can infuse innovative teaching practices to augment whatever we have in terms of curriculum today. The school leadership and the culture also has to evolve. They have to be also embracing technology and understanding that technology is really the enabler. It is not the outcome. We all know that technology will never be the outcome, but it has to be the enabler that will help make classrooms, be it for students or adult learners, to be able to have a more immersive and inclusive kind of learning environment as well. And of course, then finally is the education system change, to embrace all these changes and to make learning a more fun and interactive activity as well. So I want to share some of the examples that we have created via this PPP, or the public-private partnerships, and it's really about having a shared value in terms of the partnership that we have formed. We look at policy, we looked at capability building, and also access to technology. So for Microsoft, being the technology company, we provide access to the technology, and at the same time, we also help in terms of the capacity building, in terms of upskilling students, teachers, adult learners, and everyone in the entire learner ecosystem to do better and to achieve their fullest potential. And we rely on the government to actually push out policies that enable us to do that. A couple of years ago, we worked with the British Council, right, to push out a digital hub of learning. And this was widely accepted in all the British councils throughout the world. Right? This was between 2011 to 2013, prior to my joining of Microsoft. And really driving partnerships through, driving education transformation through partnerships comprises of three different portions. Private sector, where we provide software, we provide content, we provide mobile operators, we provide devices. We also will have to work with the NGOs and also influencer partners. So you have your parent-teacher association. Parents are extremely important because as a lecturer from in my previous job, whenever January comes and there is this thing called the joint admissions exercise, parents will come down with their son or daughter and say, no, I want my son or daughter to do business. Because, why? Hollywood doesn't do us any favor in that, because Hollywood always portrays the business graduate earning starting salary of $10,000, sitting in a nice office driving a fast car. Then the infocom or the engineering graduate is the one sitting behind in a dark room, coding, talking to a computer. So, these are perceptions that we have to change, right? So, parent-teacher organizations, NGOs, unions, advocacy groups, even organizations like Science Center and all that, they have really done a lot in terms of changing this mindset about technology and the way that technology is playing out in terms of education, in terms of careers as well. Of course, financial institutions, we cannot leave them out because we need the money, right? These changes don't come for free, right? We need the money to make sure that we can effectively implement some of these changes into the ecosystem as well. So we work with banks, we work with ministries of finance. Of course, donors are most welcome as well. I want to share a local example that took place about a week and a half ago. This was at NUS, where we had the pleasure of having my big boss, Satya Nadella, to actually fly down to launch the NUS Institute of Data Science. This was on 27 May. So I will never forget that day. Briefing document of about 59 pages for a half an hour ceremony. So, but it went very well, right? As you can see, they are all very happy. And after I got a call after that, I was a bit worried. I don't know whether everything went well or not, because I was sitting there and hoping that everything went well. It looked like it went well. But after a call from Jessica Tan, who's my country manager, she said, yeah, everything went well and things are good, but the real work starts now. Okay? So what we are providing to Microsoft is really content that we have developed together with industry experts in data science and in collaboration with also MIT. So we have put together about 200 hours of content in data science, and this is the differentiating factor here. It is not only for computer science students. That means it is not only for the School of Computing in NUS, it is for all 17 faculties within NUS itself. And that was the differentiating factor, because the content that we are developing crosses STEM and also non-STEM students as well. So these are things that we are doing in collaboration with institutes of higher learning like NUS. I cannot leave this out because, as I mentioned, there has to be universal access to students who are suffering from physical disability. And in this, the next video that I want to run is really about a case study from the Washington State School of Blind, where a teacher was extremely well sought after because of her knowledge and the way that she interacted with the students, but for family reasons, she had to actually move out. But the school still wanted to retain her services. So what they did was this. So let me run the video.
All my senses are there, some used more than others, others not used at all. I can see out of my left eye a little bit. I can see enough to recognize a different coloring of the wall maybe, or the floor, or lighting. I use the school computer with the braille display connected to it so I can read what's on the screen.
I got really far in math at this school compared to what I would assume I'd get in public school, because math is so difficult to accommodate for low vision and blind students, and they do such an amazing job here. I can see the desktop, I can read the print most of the time. I do use magnifier, which helps me. In my Algebra 2 class, we connect with our teacher, Miss Lowell. We video chat with her. She opens the whiteboard so we can see what she is working on.
That'd be D squared minus...
I am the high school mathematics distance education teacher. I live in Bend, Oregon, 180 miles away from the school.
Everybody did, so we'll just...
I teach from home, and we use Microsoft Link. We, I think, use every single aspect of Link that is available. Using the whiteboard feature of Link, for the first time in their lives, a lot of these students can take the monitor, pull it up to them, and be able to see the whiteboard. I write everything as you would on the whiteboard in front of the classroom, but the kids can see it in front of them and say, oh, I know what you're doing. We use instant messaging constantly. I have the kids do a problem. I say, okay, send me an IM. What is your understanding? So I get a personalized note from every single student. We wanted a way to really communicate more. And we were struggling with getting assignments turned in. We were struggling with outside of class communication. So I said, let's give Yammer a try. So we have our own Yammer group, and I put all of our assignments on there. Kids upload their assignments to Yammer. So it's this constant highway of not only communication but materials. These kids are so prepared with enterprise level software and technologies that when they get to college, they're going to understand what it means to turn in homework digitally. They're going to understand how to connect to a social media network and the appropriate use for it. We're giving our students a really good chance for a success beyond high school and college.
So I wanted to end with this video to share with you in terms of how we have enabled the entire inclusiveness for education, both for student learners and adult learners as well. And I hope it has given you a good overview of one, what Microsoft is doing in this aspect, and two, the possibilities of collaborations that we will have if any of you are interested in terms of collaborating to enrich the entire learner ecosystem for education in Singapore. Thank you.
Testing, yeah, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, yeah, I have the privilege of having the mobile mic because, yeah, in case you all cannot see me hidden under the rostrum, okay? Yeah. All right, yeah, thank you, Gary. Yeah, you actually set a very good context for me. Yeah, because today I'll be sharing not just about learning, but I will even start off with Smart Nation. Yeah, and Gary has set the context about, you know, the world being more complex now. Yeah, so we do need to think of new ways to solve our complex world problems. Okay, yeah, we got to get the password here first. Okay. Mine is, nope, not this one. Yes. Okay, no, which one? All right. Okay, so as I said, I will be firstly sharing a bit about Smart Nation, okay, and then how it relates to some of the education initiatives that IDA is doing. So, I'm Hui Hui from IDA. I come from the education sectoral innovation team. What my team does is to look at how technology can help to enhance the teaching and learning for education, and we look at preschool all the way to adult learning. So I will be sharing today about our various initiatives from preschool to adult learning, and you can see maybe some of these ideas you might want to apply to adult learning as well. Okay, so thirdly, I will share something about workplace-based learning, and after that I will pass the mic to Mr. Ho Chi Wai. Yeah, he's a lecturer in Republic Polytechnic. We did a pilot together with them on an internship, workplace-based learning. Yeah, so he will be able to help to explain from a user point of view how workplace-based mobile learning has helped in the interns' stay in the various companies. Okay, with that, let me start. Okay, Smart Nation. Okay, so I'm sure you all must have heard about Smart Nation. Yeah, so Smart Nation is really about being able to anticipate the needs of our people, being able to deliver services better through technology, and also being able to empower citizens to solve problems. Okay,